May the Force be with you. Welcome to week 2 of Star Wars month. I'm Randy.
And I'm Kristen.
And this is Crossing Kin, coming to you from a mess of the Crossing Kin garage. We've had a lot of life happen lately, and so we're kind of tucked away in a corner maybe a little bit. But we promise more reviews of the Crossing Kin garage as the summer progresses. Stick around. We are in week 2 of our month-long celebration of Star Wars. May the 4th be with you. I'm sorry. Force be with you, right?
He really likes saying that.
I love it.
Today, we are doing kind of a sequel to one of our videos from last year. Linked above either my head or Dad's, there should be a card that links you to last year where we ranked all of the Star Wars TV shows. Today, we are ranking all of the theatrically released films.
I have a really bad feeling about this.
Oh, it's okay. Don't worry. No feelings were harmed in the making of
No
this
feelings.
video.
No, absolutely not. This is one of those topics that dominates social media anytime Star Wars comes about. So we at Crossing Kin, we don't want to be left out. We're dipping our toe in the pool of all things Star Wars, and we're going to rank for you our vision of how the films pan out, basically.
There are 12 of them, so let's get started.
Let's get started. No honorable mentions.
This is a
All of
ranking.
them are in the part of the ranking. So, what do we have at number 12?
The Rise of Skywalker. Technically, I think it's episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. This is the most recent theatrical release, and if you guys at all remember or watched my what if on the what if I wrote the Star Wars sequel trilogy, you guys already know that I have some rather strong feelings about this.
She hates this film.
I really don't like it. Hate is a strong word.
You said strong.
But I said in that previous video that this is a borderline bad movie. It's not quite over the border, but it's way closer than any Star Wars movie ever should be.
The only reason that it's not a bad film is because it's Star Wars.
Also, Billy D. Williams.
Billy D. Williams.
Lando returns, which is always a delight.
Yes.
There are a couple of funny moments with BB-8 and a few of the other characters. But bless their hearts, everybody just didn't seem to want to be there. And it's made a little bit worse because it's Carrie Fisher's last movie.
And the actors,
she tragically died before filming was complete, and so they had to real quick write Leia out and do this, that, and the other thing to try to explain, why Leia wasn't in more of the movie, and so it wound up a big mess. 6 writers. And this wound up a very big mess.
6 writers. It lacks continuity, which you can tell. It lacks character development in some cases. But it also, I don't know that it does a very good job of taking the lead characters that we were introduced to.
Rey, Finn, and Poe.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. And fleshing out the finality of their storyline. Well, come to find out, Rey is going to have a whole nother trilogy built around her, supposedly.
Without Poe and Finn, which is tragic. Finn especially. I loved Finn. I hope that somehow by some magic finagling and maybe money, we're able to get John Boyega back as Finn, because he was my favorite in the sequel trilogy.
There's much to be said about the sequel trilogy.
And we'll say more of it as we go down this ranking. More,
but this film, we hope you agree. Sidious didn't need a clone.
No. I mean, I appreciate what the Bad Batch is doing, trying to make it make sense.
They're making a very good attempt at shoring up what winds up being the main plot line.
Yeah, an out of nowhere plot line.
And out of nowhere.
I mean, literally, there is a line in this from Poe delivered by Oscar Isaac in just the most "why am I here" way. He's back. I don't know how, but somehow Sidious is back. If that is a line in your movie, you've done messed up.
Again, it's mind-blowing to those of us who watched the original Star Wars trilogy in the theater, where they wound up taking all of this. We won't pile on because we know social media has done a very good job of that. And we've got 11 more films to talk about.
Number 11, we have the movie that came right before the last one, The Last Jedi.
You might be surprised to find, or you may not by this point, surprised to find where the sequel trilogy winds up in our countdown.
Okay, let me say this first. Visually, this movie is gorgeous. This movie has some of the best visuals I have seen in a movie in a long time. The contrast between with all the reds and the white, the Battle of Crate is surprisingly beautiful. Um, so that's a plus. Ryan Johnson did an excellent job of making a pretty movie, but however, a lot of the characters start their downfall here.
It doesn't make sense from the way that the
Where we
characters
left them.
exactly where the way the characters were decently set up in the seventh film.
Mm.
Um, it it's just
It's baffling.
frustrating. It is baffling how we go. But let's say this: the number 8 title,
The Last Jedi.
The Last Jedi, is a good segue from going to 7, kind of decent, to 9, pitiful.
It's somewhere in the middle. Like again, I think I said this in my what if last year. It's not a bad film, but it wasn't what anyone was expecting given what we were left with at the end of 7. I do want to say one more thing in regards to Last Jedi. Just the reason that I don't like it quite as much, I'm coming at it from a little bit of a writer's perspective. And so in my brain, a character needs to progress, not degress. And it feels like, with the exception of Ray, who does get some character progression, but
Finn and Poe are left in the
Finn
dust.
Finn is given this weird random side quest with Rose, who bless her heart is thrown at us and then forgotten about. Which that's very sad because she could have been a very cool character, and they just had, because there was backlash, they just kind of hid her away in the following movie. But Finn is given a weird side quest, and then Poe goes from being Leia's most trusted general to being a mutineer against Laura Dern's Admiral Holdo. Didn't need to be there. There's no reason for that character other than to create tension between Poe and Leia. And if that is your character's only purpose, it's not a character. It's a plot device.
Well, we all have a limited amount of time, and I'm
Moving
afraid we could
along.
spend
Moving right
the
along.
bulk on how much we have disdain for some of these lower in our countdown films.
But thankfully, the disdain is lessening now because we are at number 10 with episode 2, Attack of the Clones.
The only salvation for this is John Williams' score.
Well, I will say this: Count Dooku is he's Christopher Lee. It's Christopher Lee. I love Christopher Lee, so him being in this, great. Samuel L. Jackson coming in with the Jedi in the arena. This party's over. Like, I love the back half of this film after everybody gets into the arena. Once we get in there, I really do start to have a good time. And Dad's right. John Williams' score, incredible in this film. Like, he does some great stuff. The problem is what we have to get through
to get
there.
Yes.
Now, Anakin and Padme's back and forth is boring as all get out.
But
it's not Natalie Portman and Hayden's fault.
Well,
here's the issue. Anakin and Padme's back and forth relationship, whatever, it wouldn't have been so bad if they had better things to talk about. Like, George Lucas, you are amazing for giving us the Star Wars universe. But you are the writer, director, and producer on all 3 of the prequel films, therefore everything wrong with them is at your feet.
And you should have brought in Dave Filoni.
Doctor, somebody, anybody to just look at the script and be willing to tell you that this was not great dialogue.
What we're saying with the back half of our countdown is a writing issue. Yeah. And that's why Kristen is so passionate about this. She comes from a writing background. I come from just a strictly viewership background and cinematography type and music background. I don't disagree with her because it winds up being
Tedious.
immature.
And Ewan McGregor with his Jedi mullet, he does his amazing job in this film. Ewan McGregor is the highlight of the prequels, point blank.
Dude could
So,
have a fro and he'd look good. I mean, so let's just call it what it is.
but Ewan McGregor's section of this movie, I appreciate it because of what it has gotten us to in modern day Star Wars.
Sure.
Because without Ewan's little detective-y all over the place, we wouldn't get clones. And this is the Attack of the Clones. They don't attack until the end of the film, but boy howdy, they sure do attack it.
And to its credit, the battle scenes in this film are good.
Good, yeah.
They're good.
They're just all at the end of the movie.
Right. They're all in the
So,
last
30 minutes?
Right. They're in the last portion of the film, and the film has been building up to this incredible battle where it didn't have to take
So
three
long to get
quarters of
there.
the film to get there. So,
All right. Well, we just alluded to it, so why not talk about it a little bit?
sure.
Coming in at number 9 on our ranking, we have the Clone Wars theatrical release. This movie, it is, from what I've been able to gather, it is basically 3 or 4 episodes of the Clone Wars woven together as basically a pilot for what Filoni and co. could do later on with the show. The reason it is this low, it is not due to writing. The writing is actually really good. It is not due to the action. The action is pretty decent as well. The reason it is this low is the animation quality.
Right. This thing was premiered on Cartoon Network.
But it was a theatrical release.
And
but it was done on a Cartoon Network budget.
It was done on a Cartoon Network budget, and it's obvious. What we see later on in Clone Wars, and then segueing into Rebels, and now into Bad Batch, is a obvious budgetary increase and an obvious passion for the animated portion of the universe. Which, in my opinion, Chris and I think we agree on this. The animated projects have done so much to bridge the feature films.
Another kind of issue, like I said, the writing, like the dialogue is good. The story writing, it could have gotten short up just a little bit. I don't understand why Jabba's son had to be a plot point. I'm fairly confident we could have found a different just a different plot point, especially since this kid is seen maybe one time in the show and then never heard from again. He wasn't heard from in the Book of Boba Fett as an option to come take over Jabba's territory after Leia killed him, and then Boba shot the dude with the Twi'lek dude. So, where did this kid go?
We don't care.
We don't care, by the way.
Mr. Filoni, you don't have to.
Please don't.
Yeah,
we saw enough of that kid. We don't. Stinky is what they call him. Like, that just proves this was probably not the best idea.
However, the clone feature film was a great introduction into what becomes the gap filler.
It gave us Captain Rex and Ahsoka's introduction. And as I've said before, Rex is kind of my boy. He is my favorite character in all of Star Wars, and Ahsoka is in my top 10 of favorite Star Wars characters ever. So, I mean, I really can't complain that much.
And neither of them were in any of the feature films unless you talk about retconning. And, Ahsoka's never retconned, but Rex maybe just a little bit.
All right, moving right along. At number 8, we have Solo, a Star Wars story. This is Han Solo's backstory. Now, I do like this movie. I like it quite a bit, but I do understand why some fans don't. Han is one of those characters that doesn't necessarily need his backstory explained. While it is fascinating to see, and I appreciate that now I can go, well, that's what the Kessel Run means. Or, oh, that's how he and Chewie met. This, that, and the other thing. I do get why diehard fans who think this character is, just the bomb.com and didn't need his backstory explained, didn't like this movie. Personally, I like this movie. My biggest issue with it is that there is some editing issues. It's dark. And not dark in the sense of its plot is dark. It's dark in the sense of the lighting is bad and I can't see what's happening.
It's obvious that the people who were behind this film really didn't know whether they were going to um, try to do it well enough to make back their budgetary money, so they cut budgets. And Kristen has some very good points. The cinematography behind it is a little more lackluster than what even the other three films that we've talked about so far were. But I love it. We agree. Our family loves Solo, a Star Wars film,
I like
a
it.
Star
I was
Wars
explaining
movie.
why I think other story,
We
why
we
others don't like it.
we would have loved to have seen a sequel to this. Just again to continue storyline that was set up
Mm.
that gets us. We just need one more Solo movie to bridge us between that and Episode 4.
Where we meet him in the bar.
Right.
I personally, I think that would be great. Like you could even end the movie with Chewie coming to get him to come and talk to Luke and Obi-Wan. But it's not going to happen because Kathleen Kennedy, the lady that you either love or hate in Star Wars, has said they will no longer do any form of young casting of OG characters.
Well, and that's to be understood because the original pictures are so well beloved.
I want a sequel to this, if only because I want to find out what Darth Maul and Kira got up to, and before Darth Maul winds up in a cave in Rebels and Kira disappears from the universe. Like I want that backstory because Darth Maul was made so awesome in the Clone Wars and Rebels, and I want to see him be awesome in a movie.
Yeah, Kristen mentioned characters that get dropped. And we'll talk about this a little bit when we get to that film, but Darth Maul is the most underused character in the entirety of the Star Wars universe. He does, however, in the animated universe, get fleshed out pretty well.
Beautifully.
Very, very well. Thank you again, Mr. Filoni.
Coming in at number 7, we have episode 7, The Force Awakens. Guys, this movie gave me, anyway, such hope for the coming era of Star Wars that episodes 8 and 9 just did not capitalize on. It had a great new cast with Daisy Ridley, John Boyega, and Oscar Isaac as I guess the new trio would be the best way. And the trailers made Kylo Ren look very mysterious and interesting, and Adam Driver does a great job
In this
playing
film.
in this film. That's the problem. This film set up so many good things. The where did Rey come from plot line? Finn trying to figure out, how to be a potential Jedi from what this set up, as well as a deserter stormtrooper. And then Poe desperately trying to lead his people. Oscar Isaac loved this character so much that he begged not to be killed off. He was supposed to be killed off in the first 15 minutes. He campaigned for this character and got him brought back, which is probably why they didn't have a great story arc planned for him for episodes 8 and 9, because he was supposed to be dead.
The big disservice this film does is it does not connect well enough with episode 6.
I agree.
It doesn't give you an
How we got back here.
It doesn't give you an adequate bridge for Luke, Han, and Leia
To no longer be together.
It just falls short from the euphoria of 6 into this wasteland.
Yeah.
Essentially.
How did we get from celebrating the Emperor's downfall to right back where we started?
And it just that's the only thing. In my opinion, it's a good movie, but that's the only thing as a sequel. It did not do a good. They could have done it through flashback. They could have done it in innumerable ways, but they did not do a very good job of bridging that gap. If you took it by itself as the beginning of a new trilogy, that you'd never heard about Star Wars before, there's a possibility that you might see it in a different light. But
as a part of the Star Wars canon, the Skywalker saga,
as the universe, the big letdown was it didn't do a good enough job of bridging the gap.
Also, we don't appreciate the murder of Han Solo. We just don't.
We understand that Harrison Ford probably shouldn't have even come back for this. Uh, what was the point? You could have killed him off without killing him off on screen.
Yeah, you
Uh,
you could Leia's back in the fight.
there was innumerable ways that you could have rewritten that storyline, and
Katie doesn't like the sequel trilogy just based on the simple fact that they killed Han off in this.
Harrison didn't want to be a part of it after the first film,
Yeah.
and he was pretty vocal about that.
Yeah.
But I would hesitate to say that the other two films would have been as good without him. Thank you, Mr. Ford, for doing those three. We're sorry that you really just didn't want to do this one, uh, but on with our
Moving right
countdown.
along. All right. At number 6, we're halfway there,
We
and
hope to be more optimistic about the following six films.
be optimistic about the following film. We have episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the era of Liam Neeson, Ewan McGregor, and Samuel L. Jackson, as well as CGI Yoda, depending on which version you're watching. As well as the movie that has the absolute best piece of music in cinema history with Duel of the Fates and a
I
very
wouldn't
epic
go that
lightsaber.
far, I
I
don't
would.
think, but
A very
it
epic
is.
lightsaber fight to go right along with this epic piece of music.
Marching bands for years at college and the high school level both were greatly appreciative of the fact that Mr. Williams had penned this particular piece from that film. Gangbuster film, blockbuster film. And that's one thing we haven't hinted at. We've talked about the music of Star Wars before, so we really didn't want to get into that very much. But the music is consistent.
Mhm.
We just props to all of the folks who had anything to do with the music.
John
It
Williams, as far as the movies go, I think, and Kevin Kiner in the Clone Wars
it
theatrical
goes
release.
back to the themes that John Williams wrote
Hmm.
in the original films. This film, there was a lot of hype,
'99,
surrounding it.
right?
I
I
can't
believe so.
remember. There was a great deal of hope with this one as well, and in that it would give us some backstory to characters that we were introduced to and saw their storylines play out. People wanted more of the Star Wars universe,
Hmm.
and here we are, 12 pictures later, and more on the way. People still want more of the Star Wars universe. It's because it's a great franchise. This first film was phenomenal. I thought it was very good. The only cringy worthy part of it was the whole Padme and Anakin
Because he's a kid and
because
she's
he's
supposed to be a teenager, I think. So it's
it
a little
was
weird. It's
it's
just weird.
I'm not sure you could put it on
No.
theaters today
Nope.
with
Nope. Absolutely not.
all the
Nor should
cancellations
you.
and well, it's just creepy. And
Yes.
even then it was a little cringeworthy. Um,
This is nothing against Natalie Portman or Jake Lloyd.
Without a doubt.
Do not bully the actors
Yeah,
for doing their job. That is awful.
so that to me it really did a good job of giving us a beginning, at least a pseudo beginning. And I mean, we're going to get the acolyte, which maybe
Way further
in the
back.
beginning. But it gives us insight into what will become the Skywalker saga.
Mhm.
Knowing with us having knowledge of
Of
some
where
of
it
the key
goes.
players of who Anakin Skywalker is, and then filling the gaps in around who Yoda was, who Obi-Wan was. That is the beautiful part about this is it did do a good job of
Yes.
bridging the
Yes.
gap between 4, 5, and 6 and
And
the prequel
yes.
first prequel movie.
That's something.
They did a beautiful job of bringing enough of the characters over to give a history and a backstory.
It's not perfect, but
No, without a doubt.
it is entertaining. The actors do well, and Liam Neeson, Ewan McGregor, and his last name is Ray. I'm so sorry I don't know your name, gentleman who played Darth Maul in episode 1. Um They do a beautiful job with that final lightsaber
Hmm.
duel with
Hmm.
Duel of the
And,
Fates.
and and again, I've said it before. Darth Maul is one of the most underused characters in all of Star Wars universe
Clone Wars.
until Clone Wars.
Beautiful. All right. Up next at number 5, we have episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. This is where the prequel trilogy got good. Everybody had finally settled into their roles. Everybody was finally mature. The dialogue still wasn't fantastic. I mean, there's a eternal internet meme that when Obi-Wan had to go, he killed younglings. The reason Ewan McGregor covers his mouth is because he was hiding his laughter because he thought that line was so ridiculous. So, I mean, the dialogue is still a little rough, but the story, the heart, the emotion, the visual effects,
The visual effects are
and that
outstanding.
last fight is just like it's also heart wrenching, and everybody plays it to the
Well,
nines.
and I've said a lot about bridges. I've said a lot about cohesion. There is enough at the end of this to make episode 4 believable.
Mm-hmm. I do have this against episode 3 beyond the cringy dialogue, and this kind of still goes along with the cringy dialogue. Why did we make Vader shout no? I don't appreciate the big, overly dramatic no. I don't. Vader is cooler than that. Moving right along at number 4 in our ranking, we have episode 6, The Return of the Jedi.
Now, you may be wondering why, oh, why Randy and Kristen are the first 3, not the top 3. Well, we were talking just a little bit ago. All of the films have some things, and episode 6, it was a little bit of it was a great film,
Don't get us wrong.
but it was a little bit of a letdown from episode 4.
And
And
5.
the build up from 5.
Yeah.
It really, I think, I think here's part of the problem. Episode 6 didn't do a good enough job of getting us to episode 7, as much as episode 7 didn't bridge back.
My kind of issues with it is that everybody seems this sounds really weird, but hear me out. Everybody seems super chill in this movie. Does anybody else feel that? Like there's no real sense of danger. It's like we already went through the worst of our crap in episode 5. Han got frozen in carbonite. Luke lost his hand. Leia was held hostage and had already been tortured by Vader in episode 4. So they've already been through the worst of their crap. So everybody really seems chill, and then we go party with some teddy bears. Like there is
It's the
still
Ewoks'
some
fault.
danger. No, I love the Ewoks. Don't get me wrong.
I do too.
It's adorable little teddy bears.
But you have to confess, they are not intimidating like Wookiees are.
If you wanted to make us feel like there was a sense of danger, have the freaking Death Star target Chewie's planet. Have them target Kashyyyk. But anyway, this is a great film. The Emperor is legitimately terrifying. This is the first time we've actually seen him at full power. And I love Vader's redemption. I genuinely love Vader's redemption. But the core trio, they just seem like they're very calm about everything. Like Leia gets shot and she pretty much shrugs it off.
She's bad.
She's probably one of the coolest women in cinema. So again, I get it. You can take a blaster bolt and be good, but still, everybody just seems to have the calmest of reactions.
I think part of
everything.
it might have been
Except
that
for 3PO.
the idea that they thought that
This would
was
be
it.
it.
You know, this was it. They had come to the end of what the storylines that they could tell, and they were already, taking a victory lap.
Moving on at number 3, we
Three.
have
3 more left.
we have
Which 3 will it be?
Rogue
Let's
One,
find out.
a Star Wars story.
Rogue One.
Oh man, we saw this in theaters and it was awesome.
It really does. My opinion is this should have been the very first film. It really should have been overall the release first film. Unfortunately, they had to go back and write the story. But they did a phenomenal job of giving us that bridge, if you will, between episode 3 and episode 4. And I've said it time and time and time again. Part of the beauty behind the Star Wars universe is you have all of these characters that are woven into one cohesive story. Yes, the Skywalkers are the focal point of that story, but you have all of this narrative that goes so far into giving you this rich and deep story from a galaxy far, far away. And Rogue One does a brilliant job of setting up what we think you should see in episode 4.
I will say this. Movies, they have the hardest time getting you to deeply care about characters in the 2 hours
That's true.
that they have. Like in episode 4, I'll be honest, I didn't care that much about Luke. Like even when I first watched it,
He's a whiny baby.
I wasn't that invested in him. Rogue One, I'm there. I'm invested within the first 30 minutes. I am invested in Jyn Erso and Cassian Andor and all of the other people in this crew that becomes the Rogue One crew, and just their desperate attempt to protect and save this galaxy that has never been kind to them. And like we mentioned last week, K2SO was a very emotional death for me. Jyn and Cassian hugging each other as their spoilers about to perish. I cannot remember his character's name, but the not Jedi monk guy who I am one with the Force and the Force is with me.
Yes.
His death hurt. The actor's name is Donnie Yen, I believe. And then his blaster wielding friend continuing his mantra right up until his death. Like, all of these people that have no business sacrificing themselves for this galaxy because the galaxy had never treated them well, coming together and giving their last to make sure that these plans got to Leia. Like, I was so invested in them and I was so sad. Like, I kind of want to see the cut where at least one of them survived, because there are a few cuts where a couple or where one or more of them survived. But I think that would take away the impact.
Yeah, Disney powers that be, we're ready for Andor season 2.
Mhm.
We really are, because
Yes,
this story is one that should be told for Star Wars fans all over the world.
Absolutely.
Andor season 2, Andor season 1 did okay, but it was like so many other Star Wars projects.
Started off slow and then ramped up in the last 3
and
or
then
4.
ramped up so much in the last 3 or 4 episodes. You're like, what just happened?
We want Andy Serkis back.
Without doubt. Andy Serkis desperately needs to be a continuum in whatever happens next in the story of Andor.
As an aside, just at least confirm that he's not dead.
You don't have to retcon him into Rogue One, but you do need to continue his character arc in Andor.
Just tell us his living or death status, okay? Just either put us out of our misery or give us joy by letting us know he's alive.
But
okay,
we digress.
Cool. Thank you. Rogue One is excellent.
Rogue One's excellent. If you've not seen it,
Vader's scene at the end.
Mm-hmm.
If 3 kind of made him a little less cool with the melodramatic, no, this movie got his cool back in space.
Yeah, go excellent film. That's why it's number 3.
All right,
countdown of all the Star Wars films.
Coming in at number 2, we have episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back.
I didn't necessarily want to go this high with this. I have to confess that.
I fought for it.
Kristen fought for it at number 2. I really felt like Empire needed to be around 3, 4, maybe as low as 5. Just because for a lot of us who went and saw the original film in the movie theaters, Empire Strikes Back was a little bit of a letdown. Because we didn't get a completion of the story. It sets up so much.
You had to wait 2 years for the or 3 years actually.
Yeah, we had to. It set up such a cliffhanger so many cliffhangers
So you've got
at the
lingering
end.
dissatisfaction.
And that really, at that point in time, the cliffhanger really wasn't a
Norman
it
film.
wasn't. It wasn't a normal, especially, well, let's face it, trilogies were not normal. I mean, Star Wars did a lot of things, but it also brought us into this era where sequels and prequels and trilogies and
Actually bridged together rather than just being the next adventure.
exactly. So, that episode 2, phenomenal film. Again, don't get me
Episode
wrong.
5.
Episode 5. Second film, episode 5, number 2 in our countdown. A lot of twos there, kiddo. So what it did was continue, and it did a beautiful job of continuing the storyline of Luke, who really kind of came off as petulant, in
Mhm.
my opinion, in the first film. Um, it rounded out Leia and Han. It
It gave
gave us it gave us Lando. It gave us um, a little less of annoying
it
3PO.
blew him apart. It gave him his comeuppance.
And yeah, I mean, everybody was okay. I want to say they stopped short of shouting
Decommissioning him.
hooray when he got blasted in the theaters. But it's a good film. It really deserves to be higher up in the 12 pictures. Again, I have some concerns with being number 2, but again, 1978 for 1978, CGI, which was non-existent at the time. And if you go back, you can see some of the frames waltzing through.
My opinions on Empire, unlike Daddy, I got to watch them all in fairly quick succession
And
on DVD.
that's a valid point.
And so I was able to be like, no, we have to go save Han. We have to make sure everybody's okay. So I'm just like, put in the next disc. Let's go. So I didn't have the 3 years of how are we gonna save Han.
Let's face it, late 70s, we couldn't binge watch anything.
So I had that benefit, but the score of John Williams, the introduction of Yoda, the delight of Billy D. Williams as Lando, Boba Fett being introduced. Like even though he wasn't much of a character,
Pretty
he's
important.
he's there and he's cool. That rule of cool
Right.
applies when it comes to Boba Fett.
Right.
So I mean, I was gosh, I was probably 10 or 11 when I first saw Empire. So to me, this was like the darkest hour in the hero's journey. And I'm just like, okay, let's put in the next disc so we can find out what happens. But this is epic.
Let's face it, Star Wars is escapism at its finest,
And so it
regardless
having
of the
kind of
film.
a downer ending
And
was
so,
not
absolutely,
great.
or at least an incomplete ending.
Yeah.
You know,
And you're a completionist anyway.
I am a
so
completionist with the hero riding off into the sunset with the damsel in distress. That's the way a film should end.
Well, we've reached the top, and if you've not guessed, then you aren't sure how many Star Wars films there are. We have reached number 1, episode 4, A New Hope.
The granddaddy of them all, as
Yes.
the cliche says.
The very first movie, and of course, it is number 1 in our ranking. Alec Guinness as the wise old master, R2 and 3PO as the sidekicks, Han as the dashing rogue, Leia as the damsel in distress, who can hold her own though.
Yeah, Vader
Um,
as
the ultimate villain,
incarnate.
kind of,
Yeah,
as evil incarnate. And what's weird is that he's technically a villain sidekick because
And-
Tarkin is the one calling the shots,
well,
and then the Emperor is in the background calling Tarkin's shots.
I think they did a beautiful job of holding up on Sidious though until the third picture.
Agree.
Until
Agree.
episode 6. I think that was stringing us along to a point of
Episode 4, I mean, it started everything. Like I said, everybody fulfills their roles. My only real issue with this, and I mean, Daddy takes issue with 3PO. I take issue with Luke.
he's a sniveling child.
Annoying.
Yeah,
Granted, he is supposed to be 19. That is the only grace I can give him.
I didn't
He
act
is
that way when
still-
I was 19.
He is still legally a teenager, but he doesn't act 19. He acts 14.
Yeah, that's yeah.
Like, let's go into Tashi Station to pick up some power converters.
Yeah, whiny. I mean, and here's the thing:
They're gonna kill her.
Mark Hamill comes full circle, I think.
It's Mark Hamill. Character growth, ladies and
But
gentlemen.
it's not character growth. If you look at him in the last picture in
In the
episode 9,
oh, his
he's
ghost form.
still kind of a sniveling crybaby,
It's
whiny
it's
baby.
worse in The Last Jedi because that's the one he's in the most. He's more of a Force ghost in episode 9. But yes, I agree.
I think if that was what the character was supposed to have been, they did it brilliantly because he was consistent through all the films.
But he's the main character, so you really never want that.
You want him to be the hero, and he's never
not.
really the hero.
He's the hero.
Han winds up being
the one who gets the girl. Han's the one who winds up making the ultimate sacrifice. There's a reason Han is number 1 in our top 10 non-Jedi characters.
Yes, and
So-
that might have been on purpose, but I would have loved to have seen Luke
mature more.
without doubt. And we've got an episode of Crossing Kin coming up that will blow you away. I'll just nibble it out there.
Is it in Star Wars month?
It is in Star Wars month
Okay.
because Mark Hamill is not Luke
Ah.
in that episode. More to come.
Ah.
Keep watching.
I just remembered what.
And that's our countdown.
Yes.
Let us know what you think.
Episode 4, A New Hope is an epic start to an epic franchise that I really hope never really ends.
And by the looks of it, it's not going to.
It's not. We've got The Acolyte coming in June or July. Skeleton Crew is supposed to be coming later
Bad Batch
this year.
isn't done yet.
Bad Batch, as of this recording, Bad Batch hasn't finished. Do not spoil it in the comments just in case we're not able to watch it by the time this comes out. Okay?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Mandalorian has revived.
Mandalorian season 4 is supposed to be coming either late this year or early next year, and then they're getting their movie next year. Goodness knows what's going to go down with the cliffhanger of Ahsoka. Like, so much is coming from Star Wars in the next couple of years.
They're already talking about a trilogy of films based off of Rey's character. And so we will just have to see. It would imagine that when my grandkids are filming their versions of Crossing Kin, they will continue to be able to have a Star Wars month with fresh and new ideas and fresh and new material to talk about. But for right now, coming to you from the Crossing Kin Garage during Star Wars month, that was our countdown. Again, let us know what your thoughts are.
Please tell us your ranking down in the comments. This is a very loose subject.
Yeah, we are not.
Everybody has their own opinion.
Kristen and I argued about this.
Yes,
because again, I didn't see.
He wanted 5 a little bit lower. I wanted it a little bit higher. We weren't sure where to put the theatrical Clone Wars.
That it's everybody's opinion.
Yeah.
And we love to get other opinions.
Yes, please.
No vitriol.
Kindly.
Very nicely.
Pretend that we're all friends and can be mature adults about this.
We're part of the family here at Crossing Kin.
You're part of the kin, so just tell us your opinion. We're more than happy to have a discussion with you about it. If your opinions differ from ours, we love discussions, as evidenced by the fact this video is as long as it is.
You won't be disinherited.
We promise.
We promise.
So that's it with our Star Wars theatrical film ranking.
Episode 2
of Star Wars month 2024. Please let us know what you think. Like we said, down in the comments, all the opinions are welcome. Just please phrase them nicely. We don't want to be mean to one another, okay?
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell because we thrive on you, our subscribers, and our viewers. So, sorry it's long. Star Wars is long, especially at the very beginning, which we've substantiated.
Next week, Star Wars month continues with a actual series that is native to Crossing Kin. Y'all figure that out next week.
I've got to figure that out.
You were alluding to it just a minute ago, Daddy.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
So anyway, until next week, I'm Kristen.
I'm Randy. We sure are excited about Star Wars month coming to you every week during the month of May. Thanks from the Crossing Kin Garage. We'll see you next week.